I'm multi-dev, super. Okay, so one more time, create curve tools, edit point curve tool, options, options. I will make my options for edit point to be linear, and actually I'm going to switch to the viewport legacy default viewport in Maya, because you can see sometimes viewport 2.0 can be buggy in this software. And actually I'll just kind of click here and create a cross shape. Actually I didn't really need to actually cut those curves. I can make this shape immediately, but whatever. So I'll just go and open or close curve. So I want this shape to be closed, and I don't know, I'll just make a create I don't know, polygon primitives circle, sorry, Nurbs primitive circle. Okay, and I'll kind of, let's say, maybe scale it. Okay, just to fit, or instead of scaling, I can just kind of make this radius to be 2. Awesome. So maybe I can have this shape, and then I can intersect those surfaces. So I'll just kind of go, curves. I'll just go to curves cut, and then try to actually delete the inner part. Okay. And just delete those guys. Okay, so now for the curves, I'll just go to the attach tool here, and actually I'll just reset the settings, and then I'll just uncheck keep originals and choose connect instead of blend. So now I'll select like all the curves and then just press apply. Okay, even I turned off the checked out this turned off to keep originals, Maya somehow preserved some curves. But actually, so if you can see here, I have this curve that I wanted, and I'll just kind of go and edit delete all by type history, and actually I'm just going to delete the rest of the curves. So I will stay with this shaped curve that I want. Okay. And now I'll just make another curve to perform a extrude operation. So in this case, I'll just go to the side view, and actually going to create a curve here. So I'll just press X. Sorry, I'm just going to double click here, or going to create curve tools, edit point curve tool, and actually reset tool to make a cubic curve. Okay, so I'll just click and then press Y. Then I will just click, I'm snapping to grid, so I'm holding the X button and press Y, and then I'll kind of snap to grid here and press Y, and then I will kind of snap to grid here and press Y, and one more time here and press enter. So you can see that I made like a shape that looks like this. Sorry, I hate this mouse. Okay, I'll just turn the grid off so that you can see this a bit better. And now I'm going to align those curves. So one more time, curves, align options, edit reset settings, and here by default this align options have been performed as an action. Now I want to choose this to be performed as a tool, so I'll click here, and then I'll just kind of hit the apply button. So when I hit the apply, you can see now that my align tool is active here, and I'll just kind of drag, select the curve, and you can see now that I haven't been selected anything. This is because now I'm in viewport 2.0 and it just don't want to work. This geniuses from Autodesk just make it fucked up. So if I now go to the legacy default viewport, actually the things will work. So then I will kind of align with this one and then select this one and align with this one here. And I'll do this for this curve as well. So I'll just click in an empty space to deselect, and now I will align the middle curve with the next one, and then the middle curve with the next one. Okay, so now I press W, and now I'll perform attach. So actually I'm just going to delete, select all, press W to exit the alignment tool, then select all of these curves and choose edit delete by type history. And now I'm just going to actually attach those curves, so I can really attach them as I kind of do it previously. So like I can use like the attach, which will be the fastest way to do it, but I can also attach them by kind of setting this to work as a tool as well. So then I will be selecting one curve after another, but so far I just attach those curves. So you can see now window outliner, I have some kind of yeah. So I'll select this curve that I just made and also go to delete by type history, and I will just delete the rest of the curves that I don't want there. Okay, so now I have those curves here, and now I'm going to perform a extrude option. So for example, I will just go to the surfaces, and now I will just going to for the extrude option. So when you're performing an extrude operation, what is kind of important, it's not going to work like this. So it is preferable to we have the pivot of the profile that we want to extrude along the curve to have pivot where we want it, in this case in the middle of the object, and this pivot to be snapped to the beginning of the curve. So far we draw it that way, so we don't have to worry, but just keep in mind when you want to perform this operation, actually we need to actually have all the pivots on the right places, and the order of selection matter as well. So first we select the profile, and then we select the curve. Okay, I will just reset the settings and I will apply it. So you can see now that we extruded this shape along the curve. Sometimes it's not going to perform well, and I'll just kind of try to set up like this a bit different, so we get pretty much same result. But with these options, I'll just kind of make scale to be 0. So if I apply it now, it's going to scale down this towards the end. I'll just undo this, and if I kind of adjust this rotation like to be 720 degrees, sorry, this will kind of revolve this profile during the extrusion in order to create this very, very interesting shape now. Okay. Or I'll just try to undo this. If I go here to the options for the surfaces, for the extrude here, keep in mind that I kind of checked tube, add path, component, and everything else. So I will just reset to default settings, and I'll just say that scale is going to be 0. Well, works pretty good. And also it doesn't matter, I'll just kind of choose to have like a polygonal output, and for the polygons I'll choose quad and control points. So I'll get my polygons immediately. also in the attribute editor, all the things for the extrude can be changed. So for example, I can now add a rotation here, like to be more than 360 degrees. And it looks a bit ugly, but if I press now 3, it's going to look a bit better. But in this case, you can see that we are kind of getting like far more better result when we kind of try to modeling this with the Nurbs, itself. So it's a quite different result than we're going to rather than we export it like to the polygons. So 720 degrees. No, this is like, yeah. So I'll just delete this, and actually I'll just perform this extrude one more time. So surface is extrude, and actually I'll just kind of say it's going to be like a Nurbs output. So you can see that the results, it's kind of better controlled than in polygons. And this is one of the cases when we most likely it's going to use modify convert to polygons tool, and instead of control points, we'll most likely use the count option to achieve this shape. Okay, and it's going to look far more better and precise than the control vertices point. But you can see pretty much it works like the extrusion of the polygonal faces along the curve. But you can see now we didn't have to kind of shape the face in certain shape, but actually we can use the curve for the extrusion. Okay, so this is one of the tools. Okay, I'll preserve those curves because I'm going to use them later. But you can see now I'm having like this curve, and I will duplicate this curve. Now going to hide this curve temporarily, and now we were going to use a bi-rail curves. So now I'm just going to create another curve. So create curve tools, and I'll choose edit point curve tool. And so far I'll just make 2 curves. So I really hate this mouse. So I'll snap this one to this curve and this one to this curve, and I'll just press enter. Okay, and then I'll select this and choose control vertices. Okay, and I'll make some curvature here. Okay, just by moving this control vertices. If I press 3, you can see I can determine how the smoothness representation of the curve will look like. So just like with polygons, I'm switching from toggling from 1 to 3 to display smoothness of this curve, and maybe I'll just kind of set this up. Okay, and let's say I'm going to actually draw another curve here, and in this case I want this curve to be a linear curve, and I will snap it by holding the C for those 2 curves. Okay, I'll just go for the control vertices. So now you can see that I'm having like only 2 control vertices, and this one will have a bit more. And I can actually control this when I'm kind of choosing the number of spans here. So if I select this curve and check out in the outliner, so I can see that I'm having this first degree curve which have only one span, and if I select this curve, it's going to tell me that I also have one span, but I have like curve of the third degree. But actually I want to have some other points here. So in this case I'm just going to isolate this as a selected curves, choose a edit point and select those two edit points. I will go to the curve and say insert knot, and I want to, so I will just reset this tool so I can choose a specific point where I want to insert knot. But I use this kind of options, I just want to add a number of points between selections, so I'll just kind of add a 2 knots between selection. So if we go to the control vertices, now you can see that I have like two additional control vertices, and those vertices are going to give me like a sharp angles. Okay, sharp angles. I'm just going to exit isolate selected mode, and now actually I'm just going to try to make those angles sharp, for example, or maybe let's make things easier, I'll just kind of extrude them in this direction. Okay, so watch closely. So it's quite cool. So now I'm having like 4 curves, and I'm going to use a bi-rail tool. So we have like 2 rail curves. These are like rails for the train or something, and this is the profile which is going to be extruded along to these 2 rails. So if I go to the surfaces and go to the bi-rail, okay, I will have a bi-rail 1 tool. So I will deselect everything. So far I'll just turn off this all stuff, and I'll just choose a bi-rail 1 tool. So here down at the help line, the tool will say select the profile curves. This is a profile curve. Profile curve selected. Select 2 rail curves. So 1, 2. And now actually this tool kind of performed like single operation, that this profile, the single profile, has been extruded along those 2 rails, and actually we have this thing, and you can say, well, we can achieve like this same shape. I'll just kind of go to the surfaces reverse direction. You can say we can achieve those shape just extruding curve along one profile. But if we select this curve and, I don't know, go for the control vertices, you can see that we can kind of make a variation of these shapes along this curve. So we can have 2 different rails and one profile differently extruded along those 2 rails. And this is one of the options. Okay, I will say now I will use a bi-rail 2 tool. So I'll click here. I'll also now go to the help line and say the curve cell told me select 2 profile curves. So this is one and this is the other. Okay, and now say it says bi-rail tool select 2 rail curves, one and the other. So now we can see that actually we are extruded one profile along those 2 rails, which converting now to the other profile. Okay, so we have now a round shape converting to the sharp angle shape along those 2 curves. I'll just kind of go here under the surfaces and reverse direction so that we can see this a bit better. So we have this round profile which is going to be extruded along those 2 curves and then converted to this square profile. Is it clear? Okay, so we can see now that this topology, even in the Nurbs way, like sucks, and we'll just go to the bi-rail 2 and you can see now that we can kind of play between like this blend factor. So how this, or we can say non-proportional, proportional, and so on and so forth. And you can see that we can impact this transition in a certain way. So sometimes these barrel tools are helping us actually achieve a very complex shapes. I'll just delete this surface, and actually you can assume that barrel 3 plus tool actually allow us to have like any number of profile curves alongside here. So I can snap maybe this curve here and this curve here, and I'll just press enter, and then I'll say okay, so maybe here I want in this part to have this profile convert into this shape. So, and then I will kind of get it like, okay, barrel F8, and then I will get like bi-rail 3 plus tool, and then it's going to say okay, select any number of profile curves. So 1, 2, 3. I select 3 and then press enter, and now it asks me to select 2 rail curves, and it's going to convert shape from one profile to another, and so on and so forth. I'll just go to surface reverse direction. So you can see now that actually I can have like any number of profile curves here to define how the conversion from one profile to another. Keep in mind that I made like all my profiles on these 2 rails to have exact number of spans. So it is advisable always to have like enough spans or equal number of spans between the curves. Okay.